Hello again, my MMA true believers. I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and my guest is arguably the best voice in all of combat sports and sports entertainment. She had an impressive run as the ring announcer for WWE. She's a talented singer with a couple of albums under her belt. She's had great success with her Chasing Glory podcast. And most recently, she's been in the in-cage voice for the Professional Fighters League and the host of their new YouTube series, Prep Point. And that woman is the multi-dimensional Lilian Garcia. Lilian, thank you so much for the time today.
Wow, thank you for the intro. Even my dog was barking going, hell yeah, that's awesome.
He understands mom is a big deal. She's done a lot of things. He understands that stuff. Now,
appreciate it.
Now, when you joined the PFL last year, it was like a pleasant surprise for many since there really is so much crossover between the two fan bases of MMA and professional wrestling. Talk to me about your MMA fandom. Were you a fan of the sport for a long time? And there was this was a great opportunity to be a part of something you had long enjoyed, or was it more a recent interest and you became more involved in the sport once you started working for the league?
That's exactly it. I was a high level, I should say, MMA fan. Like, of course, Brock Lesnar. Like, I knew some of the big names, and I've always been a fan of combat sports, which is why I spent so much time even at WWE. I literally would sit at ringside, just fascinated with the matches. And so when I got called by the WWE to see about being their cage announcer, I was very, very intrigued. I mean, just the thought of changing gears, doing something new. I miss being at, ringside. Now I could be at cage side, watching these fighters do the thing. I was fascinated by it all, and I'm so glad that I joined. I really am.
You've been doing the interview podcast thing for a while now, and with regularity, stories are made from quotes that come from your conversations because you get such massive guests from wrestling on the show all the time. Talk to me about how you curated your interview style leading up to the work you do now with Prep Point. Do you have a journalism background at all in your repertoire? Was it your kind of trial and error from the podcast itself? And did being friends with many of your guests help you find that style because you knew them and it just made it less an interview and more of a conversation between two friends?
Good question. So let's unpack that. I went to school. I majored in media arts.
Okay.
But before I majored in media arts, I took some journalism courses. But I don't like writing very much. That's what's the crazy part. I don't like to sit down or write. It's just not my forte. So really diving into that, I was like, it's not going to work out. And it was a dean at the University of South Carolina where I graduated as a Gamecock. All the Gamecocks out there. He was the one that said, look, I know that you love to be in front of the camera and do things, whether it's singing or I was also a radio DJ at the time. You definitely like to entertain, but what about learning the backside of it? And that was the best advice that anybody really has given me. I was fascinated by it. I'm like, yeah, let's try that. So I majored in film producing and directing.
Oh, okay.
And not a lot of people know that. And I love storytelling. And I think my fascination of directing and producing and editing, I love to edit. I think that all of that, when I left the WWE and my dad, God bless his soul, as he was passing away and I had left to take care of him, he was telling me, Lil, you've got to do something. I don't want you just being here, being my caretaker. And the idea for doing these in-depth, just real human interest stories on the WWE superstars came to me in 2004. And now it is 2016. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try this idea that I have. I really feel like people should know these superstars in another way. Instead of just seeing their glory, let's hear about their journey to the glory. Yeah. And so I started it as it was called Making Their Way to the Ring. And then eventually in 2017, switched it over to Chasing Glory because I wanted to expand it even more than just wrestlers that I interviewed and just people's human interest stories, whether it be in like athletes, or whether it be entertainers or wellness coaches, everyone has a story, right?
Yeah.
So it's learning that. And I think the biggest thing for me that I've been able to bring to this is I decided I'm going to be myself. And I think a lot of people have forgotten to listen. And when you listen, because you can come up with a list of questions when you're interviewing somebody, but when you truly listen to what somebody's saying and then let the conversation take a course from that, that's where there's fluid, it's just so fluid. And the thing is, the guest feels comfortable as well. And now the story is just being told. And you said it, we break a lot of news on Chasing Glory, and it's not like, oh, I can't wait to break another. It's not like that. It's just like, wow, they really are pouring their hearts out there.
So for the folks that may have maybe missed the first 3 episodes of Prep Point with Jordy Young, Chris Camozzi, OAM is the latest one, explain for them like the format and what makes it different from the usual MMA interview fare. Is it exactly like you do with Chasing Glory? Is it just getting much more deeper into the fighters than just, I'm going to beat this guy and I'm going to be the champion stuff?
Yeah, well, so when we found out that there wasn't going to be a season, I had asked them, I said, what about doing some, because I'd already interviewed a couple, like Randy Couture, I'd interviewed Lance Palmer, David, Doomsday, Howard. I interviewed these fighters and got these fascinating stories. And I was like, what if we do something like that and get them, get people to know who they are before they step into the cage in 2021. They love the concept, and now it's different than Chasing Glory. Obviously, we would have loved to have done it face to face. Everyone's that does create a different dynamic. But the hot seat questions as well. It's funny because I have this what we call speed, not speed round for Chasing Glory, and it's hot seat on Prep Point. But it's just these random questions that we throw to the fighters to see what they would say. And it brings a lot of their personality out, which has been a lot of fun. And it's definitely a shorter format than Chasing Glory. So it's quick, it's very, very quick, kind of like MMA. But it's been fun. It's been fun to get to know these stories. And now, before they step into the cage in 2021, I can remember this interview and remembering some of their stories. And so I'm a little bit more invested into their fight.
Are there any guests that you really hope to get on the series at some point? I mean, the obvious one, Kayla Harrison, is an obvious choice because she's so damn charismatic, so interesting, such a great backstory. But is there maybe an out-of-the-box name that would be fun to have, like a deep dive conversation with maybe like the PFL CEO, Peter Murray, or Eve Edwards, a great story, like somebody like that you're really hoping to get on there at some point?
I want to thank you for all those great ideas. I was like, Peter Murray, I hadn't even thought of that. That's awesome. Right now we are focused on the new and up and coming, like the ones that just signed with PFL. That have not stepped into the cage yet. So let's get to know them a little bit more. And then, of course, as this takes off and I want to thank the fans out there because they're definitely letting us know that they're enjoying the format. They're really enjoying Prep Point and the interviews and the hot seat and what it's all about. And that's who makes the show. Without the fans, we don't have a show. So shout out to all the MMA fans that are supporting the show. And hey, the more it gets supported, the more interviews, the more that then we could bring you the Kayla Harrison and, the Peter Murray and Eve Edwards, all of them. Sean O'Connell, I had him on, it was Chasing Glory? Yeah, I'm trying to think, and I even had Caroline Pierce on with the Ring Girls. I did a whole episode on that. So it's just really interesting to get these people's stories. I'm all about it.
Now going to the league a little bit, are you at all surprised like that the PFL hasn't tried to get like a one-off event in there at some point before 2021, so fighters can just make better paydays than the stipends again? Are you surprised that they haven't, like, that hasn't been talked about some, because since like most of the industry is back on their feet now, at least the major companies?
Well, it is only September, so you never know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm not in those, in-depth conversations behind the scenes, the the chairman of the board kind of meetings. So I don't know what is happening behind the scenes. It would be exciting, but at the same time, the thing about PFL, you got to remember, it's different. It's got the format, and the
True.
format, man, it's hard when you don't have 8 months to really have it, fully flesh out. Because other than that, if you change from that, then it just becomes like everybody else, right? So you have to kind of, unfortunately, it's kind of like it's changed for this year, trying to make the best of it with all these other shows. Fantastic Finishes was a show that I voiced over, that I had a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. So they have a lot of different shows to keep the fans entertained. And look, when 2021 season comes around, it's going to make you appreciate it even more. It's going to be even more special. There's going to be a lot of hype. And then we could definitely focus on the regular season, the playoffs, and the championship.
I'm glad that the league kept you busy, because you're just such a valuable talent for what you could bring on the media. But in these pandemic times, it's been tough for a lot of people through all kinds of industries. When the league season was canceled, was there part of you that was like, is my PFL run going to end? Like, am I going to be a victim of like cost cutting measures? Was there a point where you're like, oh man, I am going to get a call and I don't know if it's going to be a good call?
Well, I felt pretty good and have been given the green light, like, yes, we are doing 2021 and we definitely want you to be a part of it. And then basically what happened when I got the call, obviously I was bummed. And then at the same time, Chasing Glory was losing sponsors, and it was getting hard to even book talent. And it was so much that was turning upside down. My mother, an assisted living, I wasn't able to visit her. She wasn't able to come out. Like, there was a lot of things that personally I was even dealing with, even, out, away from the career. But that's when I think it's important. You have to listen to what is right for you right then and there. And I spoke to my husband. We worked together as a team, and we looked at each other and we said, we got to put Chasing Glory on pause right now. It just doesn't feel good to keep pushing these shows out right this second. I took some time off. I haven't taken time off in a really long time. So, and then we decided, okay, let's pivot. Let's think, what does this look like? That's exactly why Prep Point came about, right? The idea, all right, we're not going to do this. Let's try this. So I'm busy doing Prep Point. Put Chasing Glory on hold. Now Prep Point, is starting to definitely, come out week after week. And we are pretty much wrapped up as far as the interviews. I can't wait for you guys to see some of the up and coming fighters that are going to come up, like Bubba Jenkins is one of them. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of names. Laura Sanchez, that is going to be coming up on Prep Point. And then we learned, like, what else do we pivot? Now, Chasing Glory is going to come back, and it's going to come back even stronger. There's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that I wish I could share with you right now, but I can't. But I think it's a valuable lesson for people. People think that they have to keep going. And sometimes it's in the pause and it's in the pivot that a lot of great things can come out of it. And so I feel good about 2021 season with the PFL. They haven't given me any indication as to that I wouldn't be used, and in more ways. Like, this really gave an opportunity, not just be a cage announcer, but to do voiceovers for Fantastic Finishes, to do Prep Point, to be more of an on-air personality, which is definitely exciting for me.
And to make that kind of transition to just have doing more duties and more stuff, does it make you feel in a way like you're now taking more ownership in the league, like you have even more value, have more skin in the game for the PFL? Because I'm sure that wasn't the original plan when you first started work with them. Do you feel like you're even more of an integral part of the PFL machine now that you've been through it with them in the pandemic, and you're helping provide this content for them? Have you even been told that by people, like, we really value how important you've become to us?
They have made me feel extremely wanted, which has been beautiful. I have said from day one, even before the pandemic, when I signed on, I said, look, I love the idea of being your cage announcer, and anything else you need from me, I'm here. So that's what I do in every job, even at WWE. I was like, all right, I signed as a ring announcer, but next thing you knew, I was doing backstage interviews. Next thing you knew, I was singing the national anthem.
Yeah.
I was putting out records. So I stepped in, and then I was even in storylines. So, I'm one of those people. When I'm in, I'm in. Like, let's go. Let's have some fun. Whatever I can provide in, what I can do and bring to the table, I am there. And that's what the PFL knows that about me. And I love that they've more and more have approached me about doing more things with them.
You were a part of a major boom period in WWE and wrestling, the wrestling industry in general. However, that period was raunchier. It was more male gear than it is now, where you see a lot of amazing athletic female talent leading the way on shows. Is there a part of you that wishes like, damn, this is what I really would have liked to have been ringside for and front row seat for all these times? Or do you feel like no matter the bikini matches they had and all the kind of stuff they did at that time, nothing can top being a part of something that it was a straight up cultural phenomenon for a time there?
And isn't it special when it happened? The evolution was definitely special. When you saw the transition, I thought it was really, really cool. Look, you got to remember, like the bikini matches, a lot of the girls, they like participating in that. And that's fine. And I always say, don't judge somebody. If they like doing that, great. Then there's the opportunity to do it. But then there was other, superstars, female superstars, they were like, no, I definitely want to get more into having a Hell in the Cell match and all.
Yeah.
And that happened. You got to remember, it's seen more now, but you had Trish and Lita that did, they tag team and they were the main event on Raw for a while. Then you had the Hell in the Cell match. I believe it was Victoria who was the very first one and participated in that. You had Iron Women match. You had these special matches. No, you didn't have the Money in the Bank, the Royal Rumble, and that eventually happened. But you had the Battle Royals. So it was the evolution of it. And I think that that's the beautiful thing, is to definitely never judge something from what it was. Just look at it as, wow, that was amazing to see it, how it did evolve.